Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 394. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you guys had a good weekend. We're going to pick up where we left off in the last podcast. I'm going to try to get to two different subjects today. I have a lot to share with you guys. Not going to do a show on Friday. This is leading up to Good Friday's a holiday. It's Good Friday, and then I'll be back next Monday for the first week of Passover, and we'll start getting, I'm sure, back into this subject. I think that next week when I come back on Monday, we're going to get heavily into some passages in the Bible. Still asking the question, should Christians support the rebuilding of another temple in Jerusalem on Temple Mount, giving money to organizations, praying for, longing for the rebuilding of another temple? Is that a Christian endeavor so we can usher in the return of Jesus? We're asking that question. We're going to ask that question in the beginning part of this podcast, continuing on with that question and the themes of the last few podcasts. But then we are going to kind of transition towards the middle of the podcast. I have something else that I want to do. So we're going to start here with Lindsey Graham. Played this clip, I guess, a couple of podcasts ago, where Lindsey Graham says that the war with Iran is a religious war. Let's listen to Lindsey Graham say this again.
This is a religious war. Who wins it at the end of the day? Do the radical Islamic terrorists who want to kill all the Jews because God told them to? Who want to kill me because I'm an infidel? Who want to purify Islam, to reject moderation and make everybody a jihadist? This is a big deal.
This is a religious war. This is a big deal. This is a religious war, is what Lindsey Graham says. And Lindsey Graham is not the only one who has expressed this war in religious terms. Many, many people have. But then we played the clip in the last podcast with Rabbi Mizrahi, the fringe radical. I think Rabbi Lewicki said in the clip we played in the last podcast, he's the anti-Semites rabbi, because so many anti-Semites use his clips and his words. Some of the stuff, I think that he's just honest about it, and he's the only one who will say it. But yeah, there's some really radical clips of Rabbi Mizrahi that have gone viral. And I showed you, I demonstrated this guy's character in the last podcast. But a lot of the clips of him and things that he said, you can find other people saying it too. It's guy's not, alone in his views of what it means to be a rabbinical Jew in the 21st century. So, in relation to what Lindsey Graham said, we started with that clip, that this is a religious war. But then when Rabbi Mizrahi is asked if this is a religious war, this is what he says.
Tucker, as you said, he suggested that, religious motivations could be influencing the war in the Middle East. But from a Torah perspective, a Bible perspective, Judaism, is there any truth to that idea?
Absolutely not. We will start with the fact that the government Israel is totally not religious. The Minister of Defense is not religious. Benjamin Netanyahu is not religious. The generals in the army, none of them is religious, the main ones. So to say that they all put a plan to go into a war because of religious purposes is more than ridiculous. These people are, some of them, anti-religion. They don't even eat kosher. They don't keep the Sabbath. They have zero knowledge in Judaism. The last thing they care about is the temple in Jerusalem. And the last
they don't care about it. The last thing they care about is the temple. The last thing they care about is religion. This can't be. So Lindsey Graham says this is a religious war. This is a religious war. This is a serious thing. And like I said, many other people have expressed the war in religious terms. But Mizrahi says that it can't be a religious war. None of the members of Netanyahu's government are religious. None of the the defense minister's not religious. These people are secular. If anything, they're not They don't keep kosher. They don't keep the Jewish holidays. They're not religious, is what he says. So, and then the clip that I was going to play after this in the last podcast that was messing up was Brent Weinstein getting to this point. Lindsey Graham says it is a religious war. Rabbi says, no, it's not a religious war because none of these people are religious. So they get into that question exactly in this interview that Tucker Carlson is doing with Brett Weinstein. And I want to react to this. Take a listen.
Unfortunately,
Brett Weinstein, if you don't know, he's the brother of Eric Weinstein. He is a Jew. His brother is a Jew, mathematician, physicist, brilliant. Both of them are brilliant, but they're Jews. So, and this portion of the interview that they're talking about, you can see he has all of the different segments of the interview timed out, and you can see that this portion of the interview is called "Being Called a Self-Hating Jew." Self-hating Jew. So he and his brother are Jew, but they're what you call self-hating Jew. Self-hating Jew is like an Uncle Tom. That's what self-hating Jew is. So that's what he is. He's a self-hating Jew. So put that in context with this conversation that he is having here with Tucker Carlson.
First of all, I see myself being spoken for as a Jew. I find Benjamin Netanyahu speaking for me, and I don't know what I am supposed to resign from so that he no longer has that right. I don't know where it comes from. What's more, I want to know where the tradition that I grew up with, which I will defend, went.
So he's talking about his Jewish tradition. He says when he and his brother grew up in the United States and Western culture, they were Jews, and they kept the Jewish customs and they identified as Jews, but it was different from this fanatical, fundamentalist, zealous form of Judaism that he's observing as a self-hating Jew. This is what he's getting to. He says that, why does Netanyahu get to speak for all Jews? Netanyahu not only gets to speak for all as prime minister of Israel, all of Israel, but because people have conflated Israel and Judaism together, that if you criticize Judaism, you're an anti-Semite, that has given Netanyahu this authority to believe that he speaks for Jews globally, that all the Jews, there's 8 million Jews that don't live in Israel, and Netanyahu speaks for them too. That's what Weinstein is getting at here.
Spoken for as a Jew. I find Benjamin Netanyahu speaking for me, and I don't know what I am supposed to resign from so that he no longer has that right. I don't know where it comes from. What's more, I want to know where the tradition that I grew up with, which I will defend, went. Yeah. I feel like, I've been sort of looking into it. I'm not, deeply embedded in Judaism. I have a good friend, an increasingly good friend who is a scholar of Jewish mysticism. I learn a lot from him about these various things. I also increasingly realize that my tradition emerges from Maimonides, who, I barely knew who Maimonides was, but he was.
We talked about Nachmanides in the last podcast because we played the clip from the guy who was referring to his writings, the Ramban, the 13th century Jewish philosopher, physician, Kabbalist, biblical commentator. He was a Jewish sage that articulated much of what is modern rabbinical Judaism. And that's what Weinstein is saying, that he comes to realize now that his form of Judaism, the way that he understands Judaism in the 21st century, comes from this 13th century sage, Nachmanides,
who is a scholar of Jewish mysticism. I learn a lot from him about these various things. I also increasingly realize that my tradition emerges from Maimonides, who, I barely knew who Maimonides was, but he was a 12th century philosopher, Jewish philosopher, and medical doctor in Spain. And he had this hard-headed, very rigorous Jewish approach to thinking, and he was actually well respected outside of Judaism because he was so insightful. And in any case, my point is, we are seeing a very, in my opinion, foolish version of this tradition, and a very dangerous one, because it sort of hybridizes these, I think most of the, and I don't like the term Zionism because it morphs on you, right? Sometimes Zionism just means that you believe that the state of Israel should exist, in which case, okay, I'll sign up for that. Sometimes it means that you want to see it expanded in some way, and it's like, hey, hold on, wait a minute, we've got a lot riding on.
What Weinstein is saying here is very, very important. Very important. So he's saying that I don't even know that I can even call myself as a Zionist these days. You know, what does that even mean these days? Sometimes it means that the nation of Israel should exist, which I'll sign up for that. But sometimes it means that you got to sacrifice a red heifer and destroy Al-Aqsa Mosque. and usher in the coming of the Messiah and rebuild the temple. And he says that I don't know if that's the definition of Zionism, then I don't know that I want to sign up for that. I mean, I'll sign up for the Zionism that says that the nation of Israel should exist. But because I believe in that Zionism, does it have to mean that I believe in the Zionism that says that we got to get rid of the mosques and rebuild the third temple and usher in the coming of the Messiah? He says, no, I don't believe in that Zionism. I don't believe in that we have to expand the nation of Israel to eventually encompass what is greater Israel. I don't believe in that form of Zionism, is what Weinstein is saying here.
Version of this tradition, and a very dangerous one, because it sort of hybridizes these, I think most of the, and I don't like the term Zionism because it morphs on you, right? Sometimes Zionism just means that you believe that the state of Israel should exist, in which case, okay, I'll sign up for that. Sometimes it means that you want to see it expanded in some way, and it's like, hey, hold on, wait a minute, we've got a lot riding on not just overwhelming people because they come from a different branch of the tree. So no, I'm not signed up for that. But my sense is here's what's
exactly, I'm just laughing, I wish I could put it as crisply as you just did, that those are exactly my views.
No, because he does put it crisply. I mean, what Weinstein says here, it is so perfect, because this is a huge debate that is going on even within the nation of Israel. People that are Israeli citizens are having the exact same debate that Weinstein just said. That does Zionism mean that because we have a nation here and we believe that we should have a nation here, does that mean that we have to destroy all of the Muslim temples and the Muslim holy sites and create this holy war and go to war with these people to expand our settlements and create this eventual greater Israel? This is a debate that is even going on within Israel. Very important that you understand that. And this goes back to the podcast we did a couple of podcasts ago, listening to the historian that wrote the book about the Jews revolting against the Romans prior to the destruction of the temple. Barry Strauss, on the trigonometry podcast, but he's talking in that interview and saying over and over again that the Jews of Jesus's time, they were so, what's the word that he used for, disputatious is the word that he uses once in that interview, that they're prone to dispute, that they were always fighting one another and having civil wars within the Jewish community. They didn't get along. There was no cohesiveness within the Jewish community. And he said that those Jews were very much like the Jews to this day. The Haloni. Who are the Haloni? Let's read this Wikipedia page. The Haloni is a social category in Israel, designating the least religious segment among the Jewish public. The other three subgroups on the scale of the Jewish Israeli religiously. I can't pronounce that word. Basically, the Haloni, they're the largest group in Israel. It says right here. In the Israeli parlance, the Haloni is used to identify Jews who observe fewer traditions, practices, and other more religious practices that these other more religious groups. I mean, they're secular. They're basically secular, and they're the largest group in Israel. And they don't care about the rebuilding of the third temple. They don't care about expanding this, greater Israel, just like what Brett Weinstein is saying here. Their definition of Zionism is like, come on, let's just live here in peace. All this religious stuff, we don't really care about that, That's what Weinstein is saying here. So this is a debate that's going on within Israel. I have a clip here that gets into more of these divisions within Israel society. Take a listen.
To understand Israeli politics and society, it's important to understand not just the differences between the views of Jews and Arabs in Israel, but also to understand the great gulfs within the Israeli Jewish population.
Israeli Jewish society is divided on a spectrum of religious observance. Nearly all Israeli Jews identified themselves as belonging to one of four categories. The Haredi, or the ultra-Orthodox, Dati, often translated as religious, Masorti, often translated as traditional, and Hiloni, best understood as secular.
So I'm definitely Hiloni.
So you see, the Haloni are the largest group in Israel. And most of these people who are Haloni, they don't support Netanyahu. Most of the people who were in the streets protesting against Netanyahu's policy prior to October 7th and asking for Netanyahu to be jailed for his crimes, quite frankly, if you want to talk about who benefited the most from October 7th politically, you have to say who that person was. It would absolutely be Benjamin Netanyahu. Most of the people that do not like him, the majority of the country, or the largest subgroup, 40%, the Haloni, these are secular people. They don't care about those. But according to what the rabbi said, Benjamin Netanyahu himself is secular. Benjamin Netanyahu's not religious either. So the point I'm making is that, yes, there are religious people who are more religious in Israel, and not only in Israel. I mean, there's also people that we have to talk about. This is the whole reason that we're asking the question about should Christians support the rebuilding of the third temple, because there's many Christians here in the United States that are also supporting these religious Jews in Israel against 40% of their population. This group, the Haloni.
Understood as secular.
So I'm definitely Hiloni. I used to be secular who didn't really care for tradition, but still kept it, for the sake of my family. And I see myself nowadays more as a secular who cares more about these things more for myself and the importance of tradition in my life. While growing up in Israel, you don't get to interact with a lot of people from other, let's say, denominations of Judaism. And if you're secular, so you go to school in your school, high school, primary school, elementary.
So let's stop there. I don't know what's going on, but that's what Brett Weinstein is talking about here. He says that I don't want to sign up. I don't even want to sign up for being a Zionist anymore, because what does that mean? Does being a Zionist mean that I support the nation of Israel to exist? It says, yeah, but all this other stuff, I don't want to sign up for that.
And I don't like the term Zionism because it morphs on you, right? Sometimes Zionism just means that you believe that the state of Israel should exist, in which case, okay, I'll sign up for that. sometimes it means that you want to see it expanded in some way.
Greater Israel.
It's like, hey, hold on, wait a minute. We've got a lot riding on not just overwhelming people because they come from a different branch of the tree. So no, I'm not signed up for that. But my sense is here's what's
exactly, I'm just laughing. I wish I could put it as crisply as you just did, that those are exactly my views.
A lot of people have that
it's
view.
Crazy.
I know.
And so I think this is the thing that I haven't heard anybody else say it. Maybe others have. But the thing that is so confusing about what's going on in the present, what's now begun in Iran, is if I just look at it like an anthropologist, that's a holy war.
That's a religious war. That's a religious war. God. The time just flies in this podcast. I mean, I'm already, 20 minutes in. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get to all this other stuff that I want. But he says that if I'm just looking at this as an anthropologist from, 200 years in the future, I'm looking at this as a religious war. I'm looking at this as a holy war. So, you have Lindsey Graham saying this is a religious war. You have the rabbi saying, no, this is not a religious war. None of the members of, Netanyahu's government are religious. None of the political leaders in Israel are religious. It's not a religious war. And Brett Weinstein says that if I'm looking at this war and I'm looking back as an anthropologist from the future, I'm looking at this as this is a holy war. This is a holy war is what it is. But then he says something just absolutely it just floored me when he said this.
Begun in Iran is if I just look at it like an anthropologist, that's a holy war. It's a holy war, but it's being led by secular Jews.
Ding, 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 ding. It's a holy war, but it's being led by secular Jews, is what he says. That he says the exact same thing that the rabbi says. Rabbi says, no, it's not a religious war. All these, leaders in Israel, they're all secular. They don't believe in Judaism. They don't even keep kosher, They're all secular. They're all secular. And Weinstein says, yes, they're all secular. He admits to the fact that, yes, that I would look at this as an anthropologist, 200 years from now, looking back at this, I would say, yeah, that's a holy war. He says, but the thing is that this holy war is being led by people that are secular, or maybe they don't practice a religion, that maybe they are part of this, occult, paganism, religion that a lot of people don't really understand. Maybe their religion is something else. But he says they're secular and they are leading a holy war. Again, when Lindsey Graham said that this is a religious war for the first time, when I saw it, I was thinking to myself, what the hell is Lindsey Graham's religion? He didn't practice any religion. Same thing as Netanyahu. Same thing as this guy says about Netanyahu and Netanyahu's cabinet. All these, they don't practice any religion. How's this a religious war when it's being led by secular people? Listen to Weinstein here.
An anthropologist. That's a holy war. It's a holy war, but it's being led by secular Jews.
Exactly.
And it is that secularness that cloaks it, that makes it look like something it isn't.
That's exactly right. That's it's the secularness.
I'm not saying
the secularness is what it provides the cloak. It provides the cover for them. Is what he says, that they're using their. See, that's the thing you got to understand. It goes back to what we were played the clip of the exorcist that Sean Ryan interviewed. I don't know why I'm, missing up on my words today. I apologize for that. But the exorcist that Sean Ryan interviewed, Father Ripperger, and he said that a lot of people that are part of the occult, that they come into the priesthood, into the Catholic priesthood. And this doesn't only happen in the Catholic Church. This is happening in the Protestant Church. There are many of these occult pagan people that come into the priesthood, coming to these Christian ministries, and they are basically crypto witches. They are, like Rippinger says, that they're playing for the other team before they even enter the priesthood. And this is very true of all of these different religions, where these occultists, because of the nature of the occult, again, they can hide behind the religion and pretend to be a Christian, but actually is an occultist, or pretend to be an Islamist, but is actually an occultist, or pretend to be a Jew, but is actually a occultist. But they can also pretend to be secular. You can also pretend to be secular and that they don't believe in anything, but they believe in occult polytheism. And that's, and he's saying this, that these people are secular, pretending to be secular, but they're really religious, and they are leading a holy war, is what Brett Weinstein says here.
Maybe others have. But the thing that is so confusing about what's going on in the present, what's now begun in Iran, is if I just look at it like an anthropologist, that's a holy war. It's a holy war, but it's being led by secular Jews.
Exactly.
And it is that secularness that cloaks it, that makes it look like something it isn't. And I'm not saying, look, I am no fan of the Iranian theocracy, right? I couldn't be more frightened by that structure for the same reason I don't want to see a holy war initiated by Israel. Frankly, holy war has no place in a world where we should be moving towards the values of the modern West.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And it doesn't matter who the religious fanatic and zealot is. If it's a Islamic religious fanatic and zealous, a Christian religious fanatic or a zealot, a Jewish religious fanatic or zealot, a cult pagan fanatic or zealot, we need to guard ourselves against this fanaticism, because these people are threatening to destroy this planet, and they really are threatening to destroy this planet. And that's something that is real, that you need to understand. And going back to all the Jews in Israel not, agreeing, and there being so much division amongst the people there in Israel, I want to use Gallant as an example as well, because even when the October 7th attacks happened and the war in Gaza started, even within Netanyahu's cabinet, you had people that were dissenting against the war plans and against Netanyahu's strategy. And his defense minister, Gallant, was one of those people. And Netanyahu ends up firing him about a year into the war. And so the point I keep reiterating and want to keep reiterating is that there is no monolithic view among Jews, even among Israeli citizens. In these times of Israel, Netanyahu fires Gallant, saying disagreements and lack of mutual trust help the enemy. And visibly emotional, Gallant says Israel's security is his life's mission, and he calls for a probe into the security failures October 7th, which I'm waiting for that probe myself. You guys knew a year in advance of all the plans of Hamas. Why didn't you do anything to stop it? Okay, so let's transition. And we were talking in the last podcast about the missile, all these people talking about an Iranian missile firing into the Al-Aqsa Mosque and destroying the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and that being, a sign from God that we need to rebuild the third temple or the new temple, because it's the rabbi that we listened to in the last podcast, Mesrai, he said that I would pretend that it was Iran and shoot a missile myself targeting the mosque and hit the mosque. And then you had the Christian pastor from Tennessee, forget his name, but he also said that we should, get a great big missile and blow it off intentionally. But there's some people that are talking about it maybe not intentional, that just accidentally, because again, Iran is firing so many missiles into, all over Israel. Israel got, hammered. And we're going to get into that here in a moment, but Israel got hammered, a couple of days ago. And it is, these missiles are going to residential areas, to, vital infrastructure, and they are even in Jerusalem, as you're going to see here. But I want to start as we transition into this part of the podcast. I want to play this clip. This guy, he hits the nail on the head. I agree with everything he says here, but it doesn't really matter. But everything that he says here is absolutely true. Take a listen.
The Dome of the Rock stands as a perfect shrine for Islam. The architecture was copied, like Muhammad copied almost everything in his religion. The location was chosen specifically because it was a holy site for other people, just like the Kaaba was once a center of pagan worship, and as the Hagia Sophia was a center of Christian worship.
Absolutely. Everything that he says here is absolutely right. The Kaaba, like I told you, Muhammad's born in Mecca. He goes to Medina, builds his army in Medina. The Kaaba was a polytheistic site where many gods were worshipped, particularly the Muslim god Habul. But there were many other gods there. It was a polytheistic site. Muhammad goes to Medina. When he comes back to Mecca with his army, he destroys everyone and then takes over this religious site, which was formerly a polytheistic site, takes over it. This is the first time that Muslims take over someone else's religious site and makes it a Muslim religious site. And this has been repeated all over again throughout the history of the Muslim religion, that Muslims will take over an area and they would find a religious site, a significant religious site. The Hagia Sophia is this is the best example. The Hagia Sophia was built by Justinian, and this was like the Christian temple during the Byzantine Empire. When the Turks took over the Byzantine Empire, they made Hagia Sophia a mosque. So what he's saying here is true, and over again. And the whole story about the night journey and Muhammad taking a journey in one night on this magic horse, Barak, to Jerusalem and all that stuff. That is a single revelation from a single person, that Muhammad telling the story without anyone else being able to verify the story. No one else saw Barak and this magical horse. Muhammad in many ways is like, L. Ron Hubbard and Joseph Smith. In many ways, Muhammad is like L. Ron Hubbard and Joseph Smith. He has a private revelation that all these people just, believe him, that he took this journey. So I get all of this. And that story is the entire reason that this mosque is significant to so many Muslims, is because of that story. But it doesn't, the point that this guy's making is absolutely factual, that over and over again throughout history, Muslims conquer an area, take over an area, and then they conquer those religious sites and make those religious sites mosques.
The architecture was copied, like Muhammad copied almost everything in his religion. The location was chosen specifically because it was a holy site for other people, just like the Kaaba was once a center of pagan worship, and as the Hagia Sophia was a center of Christian worship, and as the Babri Masjid was built on what Hindus believe to be the birthplace of Ram. Islam is obsessed with controlling other people's holy sites, just as Muhammad was obsessed with controlling other people's religious figures, turning Abraham and Moses and David and Jesus into devout Muslims. Toss in a bunch of later myths and legends and embellishments, and convince hundreds of millions of people that they absolutely must preserve this slap in the face to Jews and Christians everywhere, and you get the ultimate monument to everything history's most obvious false prophet came to do.
I agree with everything that he says there. That, again, Muhammad is very much like Joseph Smith and L. Ron Hubbard, the creator of Mormonism and Scientology. But that doesn't matter. What he says there, I agree with that 100%. That doesn't matter. That in Islam, the mosque is so significant and so important, even though it may be, based on a false story and people with the rational mind understand that story is complete BS. If Muhammad would have come to me and said, yeah, I went to Jerusalem last night and came back in, a few hours on this magic horse, I would have been like, yeah, Muhammad, but these people believe it, whatever. It doesn't matter. It is so significant to them that if that mosque is destroyed, doesn't matter if it's a stray from Iran for real, or if a Israeli missile or some other missile from somewhere else destroys that mosque. It doesn't matter. It is going to set the world on fire. I was listening to this debate between these two Muslim scholars. One of them is a doctor that worked at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's called the Thinking Muslim. And I'm going to play more of this in the next podcast, and I'm going to have time to play a lot of it. But I just want you to listen to a little bit of the first part of this talk.
This week on The Thinking Muslim, we have an urgent message from Dr. Abdullah Maroof.
I never felt that there is a very close and imminent danger to the entity of Al-Aqsa Mosque as I'm feeling now.
Dr. Abdullah is a Palestinian academic and former media and public relations officer at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. He serves as a professor of Islamic history in Istanbul.
All right, so we're going to get into more of this talk in the next podcast, but this guy goes into it. He tells you the importance of the mosque and to Muslims. He tells you exactly what will happen, that they will set the world on fire if the Al-Aqsa Mosque is destroyed. And it doesn't matter if the rocket actually comes from Iran or if it's someone else that blows up the mosque. And it's very well could come from Iran. Iran is firing, again, so many missiles into Israel. The Iron Dome is, picking up 85 to 90% of the missiles of the incoming from Iran. But that 10%, that 10%, the few that are getting through are causing severe damage, and it's causing severe psychological damage among the population there. But some of these missiles have struck in Jerusalem, and they have struck holy sites. This was a strike that hit some holy sites on Friday when I was recording the last podcast. So I didn't make reference to these in my last podcast. The one that I made reference to in the last podcast, that was debris from another strike. But take a listen to this clip. This happened just on Friday.
The Islamic Republic of Iran launched a missile at Jerusalem, and parts of it fell on the Temple Mount, just a few meters from the Dome of the Rock. And not only that, parts of the same missile fell on the Church of the Holy Sepulchre complex and also nearby inside the Jewish quarter. That means an Iranian missile didn't destroy the Dome of the Rock, the Golden Dome, only thanks to Israel's intervention.
Now listen to what she says here, and I'm sure that she's speaking in Hebrew, and then they dubbed over the English. But listen to what she says. She says that the only reason that the Dome of the Rock has not been destroyed yet is because of the intervention by the Israeli government with the Iron Dome and shooting down the rockets. Basically, she's insinuating that if Israel wasn't shooting down the rockets from Iran, that the mosque would have already been destroyed. Listen to what she says.
That means an Iranian missile didn't destroy the Dome of the Rock, the Golden Dome, only thanks to Israel's intervention.
So Israel's intervention, the Dome of the Rock was saved because of the Iron Dome that shoots down the missiles from Iran. Otherwise, the Dome of the Rock would have been destroyed. So you Muslims should be thanking Israel that they're shooting down the missiles from Iran, because otherwise the Dome of the Rock would have been destroyed. This is Netanyahu. This was some of the damage to these residential areas that these rockets from Iran made and killed some people, injured a bunch of people over the weekend. And Netanyahu, take a listen to what he's saying. They're using these cluster bombs that are illegal internationally illegal, but neither Iran or the Israeli government signed off on the agreement that made them illegal. So, I mean, they're using these cluster bombs, which are it's one bomb with a bunch of bombs inside of it. So when it strikes, it spreads all these bombs around and it kills a bunch of people. It's war. But listen to Netanyahu.
If anyone needed an explanation of why Iran is the enemy of civilization and the enemy and the danger to the entire world, you got it in the last 48 hours. In the last 48 hours, they fired a terror weapon on civilians, on children. There's a children's nursery here. There's an old person's home here. Civilians, families, they fire terror weapons on civilians. And often they use cluster bombs, which are forbidden by international law. The second thing that they did is that they fired on Jerusalem right next to the holy places.
They fired next to Jerusalem, right next to the holy places. It's significant. Saying they keep firing next to the holy places.
Cluster bombs, which are forbidden by international law. The second thing that they did is that they fired on Jerusalem right next to the holy places. They sent ballistic missiles that could have destroyed the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the Western Wall. The three holiest sites to the three monotheistic religions, they don't care. They're firing on everyone. The third thing they did is they fired an intercontinental ballistic missiles 4,000 kilometers right into Diego Garcia, the American-British base.
All right, so we're going to talk about that in just a minute, but notice he's repeating the same thing. He's saying that they're just firing indiscriminately all over. They are hitting the holy sites in Jerusalem. Same thing this woman said, that if it wasn't for the Iron Dome and us shooting them down, they would have destroyed the holy sites, not only the mosque, but also the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And this is the video of you can see the strike, and this is inside the walls there in Jerusalem. Check this out.
Guys, I'm reporting to you with a major news from Jerusalem. What you are seeing now are fragments of a missile that fell down inside the walls of Jerusalem. Here you can see a first-hand account which shows you the destruction done by this projectile.
So anyway, it doesn't matter. I mean, honestly, people, like I said, we'll pick this back up in the next podcast, and you're going to hear these guys talk, and I'm going to share some stuff with you. It doesn't matter. It's going to set the world on fire if the Dome of the Rock is destroyed, if a missile hits it either intentionally, if it's somebody else, if it's a false flag. I think that is very important, and I think it's very important that you understand that. Okay, so let's play this clip of Rabbi Mizrahi, and I want you to listen to what he says. We're still asking the question, is it a Christian endeavor to rebuild another temple and to support the endeavor of rebuilding another temple on Temple Mount? I want you to listen to what Rabbi Mizrahi says here.
The Christians evangelists here in America, which almost all of them are Republicans, they're probably all going to vote for Trump, and they are very pro-Israel. They are the ones that, thanks to them, United States always been with Israel in the last few decades. If you take out Christianity out of the picture, what United States had to do with Israel? The only things they are helping us is because of religion reason. But what a lot of Jews do not know is that they're not doing it for us. They are doing it only for themselves. Make no mistake. They all believe that once we will go back to the Holy Land and J.C. Penney will show up.
J.C. Penney. He calls him J.C. Penney, and then they start laughing. J.C. Penney.
They all believe that once we will go back to the Holy Land and J.C. Penney will show up to redeem the world, he will put us all to be burned in hell. That's what they believe. Because we never accepted him. And we won't accept him. So why they want to help us to take over Israel, to win against the Arabs, make sure the Jews go. Why they pay all these organizations that sponsor Aliyah? A lot of the people who made Aliyah, it's Christian money. All the airfare, it's all come from them.
All comes from the Christians. So this is why we're asking this question. This is why we're asking the question, that because most of the support for not for Israel, for the rebuilding, for a Temple Institute has been raising money. They have been putting together all of the artifacts. They've been putting together all of the things that they need for the rebuilding. They're ready to go. They're ready to go. And most of that money is coming from Christian organizations. So the question, again, which we're going to get back to in the next podcast, is this a Christian endeavor, the rebuilding of another temple? Now, I have another topic that I want to finish up with. We have about a little bit over 10 minutes. And I want to talk about Joe Kent and his resignation. Now, Joe Kent was the counterterrorism director under the Trump administration. And this narrative that Israel got the United States, forced the United States into this war with Iran has been circulating. And I want to explain where it's coming from. Joe Kent, in his resignation letter, made reference to it. Actually, this is an interview. He's been doing tons of interviews, He's been everywhere since his resignation, telling this story. But we're going to, of course, listen to segments from the interview he did with Tucker Carlson. And I want you to take a listen to this.
I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. How did you reach that conclusion?
I think this is key. I mean,
it's so crazy too. This word imminent. I mean, who cares if it was an imminent threat or not? A threat's a threat. You got to wait till a threat's imminent before you can take action to eliminate a threat. I mean, it's crazy. But they went on again about this imminent threat
to our nation. How did you reach that conclusion?
I think this is key. I mean,
this is key.
More challenging to explain had the Secretary of State, the President, and the Speaker of the House not come out and said that we conducted this attack at this time because the Israelis were about to do so.
At this time. Now that's key. What he's saying here. The reason that we conducted this attack at this time is doing a lot of work here. And I want you to take note of that the reason that we took this action at this time, as expressed by the Secretary of State, namely Marco Rubio, but others like the Speaker of the House and another senator also expressed the same thing, that at this time, the reason we took this action at this time is because Israel forced us into it, is what Joe Kent is saying.
The President and the Speaker of the House not come out and said that we conducted this attack at this time because the Israelis were about to do so. So that takes away the argument that there was an imminent threat, as in Iran was planning to attack us immediately. That just simply did not exist.
May I ask you to pause? Sure. And so I've heard people say that, and this just happened, but history has a way of getting rewritten in real time. And then you look back 10 or 15, 20, 25 years later, and no one seems to understand the things that you saw because they've been eliminated. Yeah. So I think it's important to stop and say, here's what we actually know. So I'd like now, if we could, just to play one of the statements that you alluded to, and that's from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. And this was shortly after this war commenced.
So everyone is seized on this statement by Marco Rubio, but very few people have played the full statement by Marco Rubio in context. And I was really angry that Tucker Carlson was one of the people who did this. I like Tucker. I mean, I haven't always liked him back in the early 2000s after the Iraq war, when he was wearing the bow tie and pushing the Iraq war. And he was just a real, I didn't like him back then, but I do like Tucker Carlson now. He's hit or miss, and he's been missing a lot lately. And this is definitely a miss, what he's doing here, because he's going to play this clip of Marco Rubio. He's going to take him out of context. He's only going to play a portion of it to support what Joe Kent is saying, that Marco Rubio said that we went at this time because of Israel, that Israel forced us into this.
And no one seems to understand the things that you saw because they've been eliminated. Yeah. So I think it's important to stop and say, here's what we actually know. So I'd like now, if we could, just to play one of the statements that you alluded to, and that's from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. And this was shortly after this war commenced. And he was explaining, as is his habit, in a thoughtful, precise way, why. Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
So everyone's played this clip of Marco Rubio saying that we knew the Israelis were going to attack, and we knew that if Israel attacked, that Iran was going to respond by attacking us and our assets in the region. So we went with Israel and attacked. So basically it makes it seem like Israel was leading the United States, that Israel was setting the timing of the attack. Piers Morgan also did exactly what Tucker Carlson did. He got into this conversation on his show. He played a clip of Marco Rubio saying, hey guys, you're not playing the full clip in context. I mean, you're not playing the full, press gaggle and that segment of the press conference in context. And you're not playing the full thing is what Marco Rubio says here. Take a listen. This is the Piers Morgan Show.
Yesterday, you told us that Israel was going to strike Iran and that's why we needed to get involved. Today, the president said that Iran was going to get
Yeah, your statement is false. So that's not what I was asked very specifically. Were you there yesterday?
Yes, I asked a question.
No, were you the one because somebody asked me a question yesterday, did we go in because of Israel? And I said...
And that was directly after. Right after Marco Rubio says this statement, the very next question is, are you saying that we went to war with Iran because of Israel? That's the very next question. And that's that gives you the full context. And people aren't playing the full thing, like Tucker Carlson, like you're getting ready to see Piers Morgan do here. They don't play the full thing. They take him completely out of context.
Yeah, your statement is false. So that's not what I was asked very specifically. Were you there yesterday?
Yes, I asked a question.
No, were you the one because somebody asked me a question yesterday, did we go in because of Israel? And I said, you asked me that follow-up. And I said, no. I told you this had to happen anyway. The president made a decision, and the decision he made was that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ballistic missile program.
Ballistic missile program. Hold on to that. Ballistic missile program. This is not about nukes. This is not about the nuclear program. This is about the ballistic missile program. And that is why the president went in, is because of the ballistic missile program.
And the decision he made was that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ballistic missile program, that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ability to conduct these attacks. That decision had been made. The president systematically made a decision to systematically destroy this terroristic capability that they had, and we carried that out. I was very clear in that answer. This was a question of timing, of why this had to happen.
Timing again. Timing. Just like Joe Kent said, why did it have to happen now? Why is the timing now? This was the very next question after Marco Rubio. Here, let me just show you what Piers Morgan does here.
Operation, not the question of the intent. Once the president made a decision that negotiations were not going to work, that they were playing us on the negotiations, and that this was a threat that was untenable, the decision was made to strike them. That's what I said yesterday, and you guys need to play it. If you're going to play these statements, you need to play the whole statement.
You need to play the whole statement. That's what he's saying. You need to play, if you're going to play it, play the whole statement. Play everything in context. Don't just cut the clip that says that we went in because of Israel, like Tucker Carlson did, like Piers Morgan's going to do here. Play the whole thing. Now, in this clip that Piers Morgan is playing, he's playing Marco Rubio admonishing the media for not playing the whole thing, and he still doesn't play the whole thing.
I clip it to reach a narrative that you want to do, all right?
So that was his rebuttal to what he'd said, but this is what he said the day before.
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded.
Israel. So Piers Morgan does not play the whole thing, even though he's playing a clip of Marco Rubio saying, hey, you guys aren't playing the whole thing. This is the whole thing. This is the part that they're not playing. This is the very next question that Rubio has asked. And take a listen to what he says.
The U.S. was forced to strike because of an impending Israeli action?
No, well, let me two things.
Are you saying that you were forced to strike because of an impending Israeli action? Marco Rubio, no. He says no. We weren't forced to strike because of an impending Israeli action. That's not what I said. And if you got that impression, then you got the wrong impression. This is what I meant.
The U.S. was forced to strike because of an impending Israeli action?
No, well, let me two things I would say. Number one is, no matter what, ultimately this operation needed to happen. That's the question of why now. But this operation needed to happen because Iran in about a year or a year and a half would cross the line of immunity, meaning they would have so many short-range missiles.
Missiles. They're not talking about nukes. He's talking about ballistic missiles. That the problem is not the nukes. The problem is the ballistic missiles. And he says this was going to happen anyway. This needed to happen anyway. Now you're talking about timing, why we went, when we did, but we had already sent the Abraham Lincoln to the Indian Ocean. I mean, we were already setting up in January, but moving forces into the region to go. Polymarket had a bet that you could bet on the date that we were going to strike, and the earliest date here is December 31st. Why December 31st? Well, look at this. And I showed you this before, the Iranian president had declared war, or not declared war, but he said that the Iranian government was at total war with the United States, Israel, and the date on this is December 27th. That basically the Iranian, here, I have a clip. I don't have much time, but I'll play
overseas
this.
Now to an ominous declaration by Iran, that country's president saying it's at, quote, total war with the U.S., Israel, and Europe. So let's bring in ABC's Marcus.
They said they're at total war with us in December. This is December 27th. And then the Polymarket, the very first date on the Polymarket that the United States was going to strike, that you could have bet on, is December 31st. And you can see that the date that we struck was on February 28th. Yes. And you won. You picked February 28th. But we were moving the Abraham Lincoln and this strike group into position. Marco Rubio says we were going no matter what. Now, the timing, that's something different. Why we went when we did, that's something different. But we were going no matter what. And the reason that we were going to take out their ballistic missiles system. This was about their ballistic missiles.
That's the question of why now. But this operation needed to happen because Iran in about a year or a year and a half would cross the line of immunity, meaning they would have so many short-range missiles, so many drones, that no one could do anything about it because they could hold the whole world hostage. Look at the damage they're doing now. Imagine a year from now. So that had to happen.
Look at the damage that they're doing now with their missiles, not with their nuclear program, with their missiles. Look at the damage that they're doing in Israel right now. Look at the damage that they're doing in the surrounding area. He says that if we would have waited a year, they were going to have so many missiles that they were going to be able to use those missiles to fend off any type of attack to stop them from enriching uranium. Once they had all these missiles, they were going to be able to protect themselves so they could enrich as much as they wanted to. It's so crazy that we talked about these missiles that they shot at Diego Garcia that went double the range that we thought that they had the capacity to go. This is Mark Rutte from the NATO Security General on CBS this weekend, just yesterday, talking about that. I want you to notice this because this gets into the heart of what's going on here.
General Mark Rutte, who joins us this morning from The Hague in the Netherlands. Welcome back to Face the Nation.
Mark, it's good to be back on the program. Good morning.
Good morning. We did see that Iran fired 2 missiles at Diego Garcia. That's that island in the Indian Ocean, which houses a U.S.-UK joint base. That was 4,000 kilometers from Iranian territory, furthest Iran has ever gone. You just heard Ambassador Waltz say there might be a difference there in how Israel and the U.S. assess that capability Iran has in terms of what they fired. But Israel says these were intercontinental ballistic missiles that could hit Berlin, Paris, and Rome. Does NATO share that Israeli assessment?
We cannot confirm that at the moment, so we're looking into that. But if this...
We cannot confirm that at the moment. We're looking into that, is what Rutte says. So you have magazines like Al Jazeera English, and this is what a headline. They put this headline up NATO Security General Mark Rutte says the alliance cannot confirm, in quotes, Israel's claim that missiles targeting Diego Garcia were Iranian intercontinental missiles. But what else did Rutte say? Listen to what else Rutte says. He says, we can't confirm it right now, but we're looking into it, but...
We cannot confirm that at the moment, so we're looking into that. But if this would be true, it is the more evidence that what the president is doing here, taking out the ballistic missile capability, taking out the nuclear capability from Iran, is crucial.
It's crucial. Taking out the missile capability, taking out the nuclear capability is crucial. We can't confirm it at this time. We're looking into it. But if it is true, then it would confirm that what the president is doing is crucial. Now, take a look at Candace Owens here. She retweets that that headline from Al Jazeera that Mark Rutte says cannot confirm. And then she retweets it saying, another Israeli false flag. Hey, they did this to drag European men into war. And this is the type of clown show that we're dealing with, people. This is absolutely ridiculous. I have this clip that I want to play. I don't know how much more time that I have, but I want to play this because I really have to explain this. We may go long, but take a listen to this guy's clip.
And when things are a bit quieter in Gaza, Israel turns its attention to Hezbollah. After a month of intense fighting, and don't forget those snazzy exploding pagers and walkie-talkies, Hezbollah.
So those pagers and walkie-talkies, that pager attack in Lebanon against Hezbollah, I do believe that Israel believed, as this guy says in this clip. Take a listen to what he says.
And don't forget those snazzy exploding pagers and walkie-talkies. Hezbollah is crushed.
So Hezbollah is crushed. I believe that Israel believes that, and that everyone believed that after that pager attack that Hezbollah was crushed. Hezbollah was not crushed, and I think that's been the most surprising thing since this Epic Fury attack and the war with Iran, is that we found out that Hezbollah was not crushed, that Hezbollah was still very active. And that's why the war in Lebanon happened, and why the Israelis had to focus some of their attention onto Lebanon, and they were distracted from, or kind of like spread thin because they couldn't focus on Iran only because they started being attacked from Lebanon, proving that Hezbollah had not been crushed. But I believe that Israel thought, and many people thought, that after that pager attack, that Hezbollah was crushed.
Its attention to Hezbollah. After a month of intense fighting, and don't forget those snazzy exploding pagers and walkie-talkies, Hezbollah is crushed. With Hezbollah out of action, Iran's ally in Syria collapses, and in turn...
So who is Iran's ally in Syria? That's Assad. Assad was Alawite. Hezbollah is Shia Muslim. Alawites are Shia Muslims. So these are all the proxies of Iran that they were using, and these dominoes are falling one by one strategically. The Houthis in Yemen are also Shia Muslims. So they take out the Houthis, they take out Assad in Syria. They believe that Hezbollah is crushed in Lebanon. So they're taking out all of these proxy pieces of the Iranians first to isolate them. This is a long plan.
Lebanon's government turns on Hezbollah. In a little over a year, Hamas's dream has turned into the Islamic Republic's nightmare. They've lost their proxy in Gaza, their proxy in Lebanon, their proxy in Syria. And with the dominoes falling, Israel pressed their advantage and took the fight directly to the Islamic Republic in a 12-day military confrontation that revealed just how vulnerable the Islamic Republic was to Israel's airstrikes. Things were looking very, very, very bad for the Islamic Republic of Iran. Their strongest ally, Russia, was bogged down with its own problems in Ukraine. China and North Korea were allies in name only. The US turned up the pressure by piling on economic sanctions. The Iranian currency collapsed. In late 2025, Iranians took to the streets to protest the epic failure that was their government.
So this is the protest that went on in December, January, but then the crackdown happened in January, where the RGC started murdering in mass, many of these people that were protesting the regime in December and January. And you look at the crowds, and people show all these crowds now from Tehran, from this, a video that is heavily edited and controlled by the government, coming out and saying, oh, look at these crowds supporting the government. Look at these crowds right here from people with cell phone cameras, showing video of the mass crowds protesting in December and January.
Took to the streets to protest the epic failure that was their government. The regime understood how vulnerable it was. They may have lost their proxies, but they could not afford to lose control of the street. A horrifying crackdown ensued, with thousands killed and tens of thousands imprisoned. No matter how you looked at it, the regime was teetering on the edge of a precipice, and the US was threatening to push it over. But as bad as things looked for the Islamic Republic of Iran's leadership, there was in fact a glimmer of hope. Because that 12-day military confrontation with Israel...
This is a very important part. This is so important to what's going on right now and why Trump struck when he did and why Israel struck when he did. It didn't have anything to do with the nuclear program, people. This was about the ballistic missile program. And you look at what the damage that they're doing right now with these ballistic missiles. Like Rubio says, that if we would have waited a year from now, because this is why, listen to what this guy says here.
A glimmer of hope. Because that 12-day military confrontation with Israel revealed a critical weakness in the region's defenses.
So what happened was Iran, during the 12-day war, after we struck their nuclear facilities in the summer of last year, and then Iran started firing all of these missiles into Israel. And again, just like what's going on right now, they're firing so many missiles. And yeah, the Iron Dome's picking up 90%, but the 10% were getting through. And that's what they saw last summer. And they're like, oh, the Iron Dome's not perfect. The Iron Dome can't get everything. So what happened after we attacked their nuclear sites during the 12-day war, and they saw that some of these missiles were landing into Israel, then they got an idea. They were like, oh my God, some of these missiles are getting through. Let's ramp up our missile and drone program. So that's what they started to do. They started to ramp up their missile and drone program at a alarming rate. And then you have the president say that the United States is at total war with the US, Israel, and Europe. And they're ramping up their missile program. This has nothing to do with their nuke program. What they wanted to do when they saw that they were able to strike Israel, even at a 10% rate, they started to pour money into making missiles and drones, which cost them nothing. It cost us millions of dollars to shoot them out of the sky. So they understood that they could affect Israel, particularly psychologically, like they did in this last attack over the weekend, they just bombarded them. Boom, boom, boom. Israel is getting hit. And what Rubio was saying is that if we didn't go when we did, we waited a year from now, they were going to have so many more missiles and drones than they do right now, because after the 12-day war, when they saw that the Iron Dome was penetrable, that they started to ramp up their production of drones and missiles. This is what it was all about.
In fact, a glimmer of hope. Because that 12-day military confrontation with Israel revealed a critical weakness in the region's defenses. And with a little time, the Islamic Republic might be able to capitalize on that weakness and maybe, just maybe, turn the tables in their favor. That weakness? Missile defense. Right, so Iran fires a volley of missiles and Israel fires missile interceptors to shoot down those missiles. But what became clear during that 12-day military confrontation was that Israel and the US had a limited supply of interceptors. So if the Islamic Republic had more missiles than there were interceptors, they'd have more leverage. They could hold off more Israeli and US strikes, step back from the precipice, rebuild their nuclear weapons program, get back on track.
So the missiles would allow them to keep the world at bay because they would have so many missiles. Look at the damage that they're doing right now with the missiles. The reason that Donald Trump went when he did, and the reason, look at this, Frank Luntz, from this article from Axios. These are the 6 demands that the Trump administration has for Iran. Look at number 1. Number 1 is no missile program for 5 years. Number 2 is zero uranium enrichment. The uranium enrichment is number 2 to the missile production. The missile production is the problem, and why they struck when they did, because Iran had ramped up their missile production because they saw that the missiles were breaking through. And then they've been using these missiles to strike their neighbors all over. That's why Trump went when he did. The real reason that Trump went when he did, back to Israel and what Rubio says about the timing issue, and what Joe Kemp says about the timing. The reason that we did, again, Polymarket was betting on the timing. Trump is already sending the Abraham Lincoln Strike Force to the region. We were going. The timing, the reason that we went when we did, and what Marco Rubio was referring to, is this meeting that the Iranian regime was having. And it was this meeting where, in this first attack, Israel was able to kill over 40 of their leaders in one strike because they were all meeting together, which was stupid. I don't know why they were all meeting together when all these tensions are flaring. But Israel had intelligence that this meeting was going on, and they were going to be able to take, basically out the head of the snake and 40 other leaders with one strike, that they had to take that opportunity. They couldn't miss that opportunity. So that's what Rubio is talking about when he's saying that Israel was going, because they were going now to take that opportunity to kill the leader and these 40 other leaders at the same time. It was an opportunity that they had to take. So we went with them, is basically what he said. But he said we were going anyway. It didn't matter on the timing. The timing that we went when we did on February 28th is because of this meeting and this opportunity to kill 40 of their leaders with one strike. But we were going anyway because of their missile program. I just wanted to clear that up. I know I went long. Hope you guys have a great week. And then we're going to get back into talking about the temple. Also have a great Easter, and we'll get back into talking about the temple and asking the question, should Christians support the rebuilding of another temple? I want you to think about that over your Easter break. I'll see you guys next week. Have a great week and weekend.